There's a
And
lot more to come. I,
I have
it,
no doubt.
it is only by doing these things that we perpetuate our
Yes,
culture.
yes,
Cultures
sir.
aren't just big buildings or paintings or song, those little things. So in
Yes.
regular life, that the culture is your whole life. And if we don't, we will get drunk out by America and Jamaica, and we'll have nothing. We will just be regurgitating what they produce. But I want to say it's a pleasure to be with you again, too, Freddie. Sorry, Dr. Ferdinand.
No, that's
And
fine.
I,
Glyne, I tell people, I know everything has its protocol, but I tell people that when my mother named me, she didn't name me Reverend Doctor. She named me Ferdinand. And
Freddie,
my birth certificate does not carry any of those things.
okay.
So that's
Thank you very
fine.
much. Okay,
Uh,
that sets me at ease then.
right, great,
But
wonderful.
I will not take advantage of that and become overduly familiar. I still have to maintain a certain decorum and respect for you as a
A-
person.
as I would for you as a former
Oh,
minister
you know
of
me.
state, I think it was.
I don't like to dwell on the former. Be with me now. I be now.
Yes, yes,
But
absolutely.
just
Ah,
let me make one quick correction before we go on any further. You had said in your preamble about the Afrexim Bank getting $155 million in land. No, it was over 220 million.
oh yes, you're right. You're
220
right.
million
Yeah,
dollars.
you're actually correct.
More than that. So don't
Yes,
shortchange the deed that has been done,
yes,
and the misdeed that has been
220.
done to Barbados. And don't hold your breath. The Prime Minister come and give any insight into these things. I think she's made it clear that she does what she does. When she feels like talking about, she talk. Otherwise, we just live with it and move on. But you know what I always say? Every day got its end. Day is right to night catch it.
Okay, yes, that's
Right?
another one.
Right. Okay. I just want to before I get into my main topic, I have a couple of minutes I want to talk about. You remember last week I would have you weren't here, but last week I would have raised the question of the what the public consider the disrespect and the mishandling that was beat out to the mighty Gryne and Serenada by not including them in anything for Carrie Festa, even on the vintage Calypso super concert, for which they would have qualified on every possible level. But I got some calls and some information afterwards that, particularly where Gryne is concerned, that we only scratched the surface and that there's a much more overriding and important situation involved a government agency, not the NCFS, another government agency, Mighty Gryne. It has to do with the Mighty Gryner's house, his own house, which is owned and lived in for a number of years.
Hmm.
And from my information, some advances were made towards him to refurbish it, redesign it, rebuild it from one, which is quite good. He's getting on in age. He's one of our cultural icons. He had to be treated fairly and with respect and whatnot. But so this work was begun more than 2 years ago. And what has happened, from what I'm told, uh, that he had this house, good, for reasonably good country, but what used to be now, as a result of the intervention of the state agency, for what I'm told, it was the then Urban Development Commission, which is now Urban and Rural Development Commission. So they redesigned the house, refashioned the house, where now what was a 3-bedroom house had been reduced to 2 bedrooms. And this is going on for the past 2 years or so. He still doesn't have full use of his kitchen. The kitchen is not finished. He doesn't have proper carpets in the kitchen. There are no wardrobes or in in his bedroom. He can't store his furniture. There's not enough room to store his
What?
furniture. So he's really quite. And the kind of man he would never complain. In fact, he would be probably very upset that his neighbors and friends have sought to be involved in this. But they feel that it's about time that the Urban Development Commission uh, fulfill its duty and complete the very laudable gesture, what's out to be a very noble and laudable gesture, because of the delay and tiredness and the discomfort meted out to Mighty Gryne has now become a source of embarrassment and discomfort and annoyance to his friends and neighbors. So the authorities are here to see if that would spur anybody into action, because it should not take the Urban Development Commission 2 years. I just said, what happens if people periodically visit and measure and make promises for them to, and then they don't turn up? So there's been no advancement. And we think it's about time that is done to, to treat him with respect and complete the job, right? And so they're looking for. They thought I should make him or put this in the public place and make sure that he can be comfortable and easy in his own premises. So thank you very much for allowing me that off
Absolutely,
record,
absolutely.
but I thought it was worth the effort.
That's terrible. Absolutely
Right.
terrible. Yes.
Okay. Um, I want to therefore get into my main topic, which what's it called? Has to do with the stunning. I'm not sure stunning dismissal or resignation of Mr. Dwight Sutherland, the former Minister of Housing and Lands and Maintenance. Um, so my topic tonight is Dwight. I'm asking a question. Dwight Sutherland, a case of political self-destruction. Dwight Sutherland, a case of political self-destruction. I'm asking a question because I can't assert positively when you don't have all the facts. But based on what has happened so far, um, I thought I should frame it in that manner. I think, but I'm speaking not only on what was said or was done, but my interaction with Mr. Sutherland dating back to 2013, right? And as a result of that, I am not surprised that this has happened because I thought, as I said to myself and a friend, he was based on his attitude of arrogance and pompousness that was exhibited in 2013, even before he won the seat, when they had to interact with him at a number of meetings. But thereafter, in 2013, when he won the seat, his persona outgrew him, his ego and whatever. So this is his attitude and his behavior up to that point, and since then, for what I understand, seem to have been tailor-made for self-destruction. It is said from those who have worked with him that his pompousness, his arrogance grew in stature, grew in volume. It was accentuated once he won the seat. And I remember after he won the seat in 2013, we then had a closer and longer interaction when I was then working with the BLP or for the BLP, and I over the years had worked with a conference arrangements committee, a committee that came together, a voluntary committee that came together, helped to organize the annual conference. So for many years, I had played a part along with the late Dame Patricia Simmons and others. We would go and help deal particularly with the conference booklet and other aspects of the protocol to make sure that the conference had a certain level of maturity, well organized, and taste based on traditional standards by over the years. So he was chairman. He became chairman of the 2013 annual conference committee. From the outset, he had a totally different attitude and approach to what we've been accustomed to by prior previous chairpersons. It was disrespect. He came in a very unorthodox style, not playing due deference to his seniors in years and experience. Because he didn't just come to the party, he came in his favorite bar. He tried to tell you that he made it seem as though he was the most intellectually gifted, brightest person in the room because he was a trained and qualified engineer. So he thought that gave him greater insight, skills, and ability and experience than anybody. So everything was he'd seen that in the context of he was and we were not. But I may remember that I've known good engineers and bad engineers, just like I've known good ministers and bad ministers. Just like I've known good ex-ministers and bad ex-ministers. So that was part of his attitude. And so that's shown through the whole deliberation of the conference. And what really brought it to the fore was that about 3 or 4 days before the actual conference, it was suddenly realized, he was the chairman, that there were certain basic things that should have been done to the venue, which was then St. George Secondary School, which had not been done. Now here's this great engineer who boasted that he had worked at Iraq cement plant for many years. He was in charge of this, and he's engineering, so he had all these skills. But a basic man of a conference is a static institute. It has more, but its budget is an annual, predictable, organized event that takes place in a format year after year. But he, with all his skills, he could not, therefore, um, it meant that 3 or 4 days before the conference, it was raised that nobody checked on the conditions of the grounds of the building, and a rescue team had to be organized right away to be able to bring everything in line. They had to go and cut the grass and paint the building and check the washrooms, all that in a hurry. And it was done by a very capable young man called Mr. Kurt Haynes, who is now the Deputy Consul General in Toronto. So I've always judged him by how this great ability which he professed, that really material in as basic and simple a task. So, and they tell me too that even as a minister, those who worked with him said that he seemed to have enjoyed and reveled in the post, in the status of being a minister, more so than the role and function activities of getting things done. It was very important to him that he was a minister, and that was it. And therefore, if you look, I'm not surprised because that probably helps to explain why, if you remember, when he first went in the government in 2018, he was Minister of Business and Small Business and Commerce or something like that. Then he was switched to sports and youth and community development, and then he switched to housing and lands and maintenance. So, and in all those previous portfolios, he never really distinguished himself. There's not as positive and memorable. I try to watch these things very carefully, particularly when he caught my ear. And I was hoping to see, I want to see how he would develop. It was not outstanding that he did, except you would probably best remembered for the whole fiasco, disgrace, or whatever else has involved with that. No pun intended. We intend to make sure that more information is come to either under this government or another government. Another government should, if this government continues to defy public wish, another government should do an exhaustive investigation and properly conducted by well-trained individuals. Give us a true picture, because a $60 million is a lot of money. Really, really is outstanding. And not only the sum of money, what it has done to what is so tragic about Mr. Sutherland's failure, I'm not even dealing with his so-called resignation, is that he has failed in a field for which his own party, the Barbara Slayer Party, would have had an outstanding reputation over the years, along with the Democratic Party, of consistently producing houses for the working class of Barbara. Going back to the 1940s with the Barbara Slayer Party, when you have had Glyne and Belfield and some of those areas, that's where the working class got improved housing, especially after Jeanette in 55. And we built one. So that housing, let me say this, housing, health, education, and transport and work, and the condition of roads are 4 basics that were the bedrock of Barbados development, that people used to take pride in. And for us to see that all 4 of them are stumbling down from pillar to post, and there seems to be no coherent philosophical policy that brings them all this, to underline and reinforce their basic importance to the quality of life of all of Barbados. And I thought it must have been quite embarrassing. By the time when Barbados True Carry Festival was open to the world and showing the world, that you couldn't even some people could not risk taking persons for a drive up the East Coast Road, St. John and St. Joe, St. Thomas, because of the condition of roads which we were well known for our good roads,
Hmm.
extensive roads. I want time to say that Barbados was the most extensive network of paved roads in the world
In the world. Yes.
because of I have to give the so-called colonialists of the time praise because they had to build factories to get the canes to and from the
Yes.
cane to the factory. So we had this extensive of
Network.
paved road, more bigger,
Yeah.
more so than even larger countries. So he's made so that's one tragedy. But I also want to talk that Mr. Mr. Sutherland also let me down considerably. This is what really disappointed me considerably. Um, even before he resigned. You remember that after the justifiable hullabaloo or outcry and disapproval of Hope, the expose on it, that he made a pledge where he said that, I remember the phrase, he was going to be revolutionizing housing in Barbados through the replacement of the artisanal method with the industrial method. So I said that sounds very interesting. Some gobbledygook, very fancy language, but what does it mean? What he really meant when you stripped it down. Artisanal, how you might pronounce this, are people that carpenters and masons, plumbers, um, joiners, the whole cadre that we have built over the years. He was dropping that for what he called industrialized method, which is only just mechanical industrialized, which was just concrete slabs. And he took great pride in the fact, so you were destroying a whole way of life just to satisfy. I don't understand why he went, but don't forget after part of his record show, the public record show that after he was laid off from um, Arbat cement plant, even though he promoted himself as this brilliant, successful, and bright engineer. He was laid off or severed, what you may call it, of with Arbat. And then had a job for a while with hard rock or rock hard cement.
Rock hard
rock,
cement and
rock
pickle.
hard cement, right? Rock hard cement with Mark Maloney. And coincidence of coincidences, who's who's the who's the greater manufacturer of concrete slabs and industrialized method of housing? That's very serious. So
Oh,
I was very disappointed
a
that
strange bedfellows.
he could seek to bamboozle and talk big and fast and not producing a good. But I also want to talk to a bit about his method of handling his resignation or dismissal. I think both he and the prime minister dealt with it badly, but I would deal with the prime minister on another occasion. I would deal with myself. So, and his pompousness and his arrogance came through, where he seemed to have deluded himself that it was a triumph and achievement. I had to resign or be fired. And he made the asinine, stupid statement for a big qualified engineer that he welcomed it virtually that he would now have more time to spend with his constituents. Not he didn't spend with, he didn't say spend working with or with. So he was looking for a line, the kind of line he saw where he was celebrating or commemorating his departure from cabinet. Now, everybody knows that as a minister, you have more access to power, opportunity, patronage. There's often a trade-off among ministers about if I'm in health, I might be able to have somebody who in housing because they want a job or something done. So they trade off in that. Backbenchers have a hell of a time getting themselves attention. And sometimes it causes um, friction within the cabinet. And even though right now you understand there's a lot of there's some quite dissatisfaction among cabinet members over the state of roads in some people's constituencies. They're just not happy with how the roads are being fixed and allocated and whatnot. So so being delivering to your constituents is what you go to what you go into parliament for.
That's right.
So for a
That's
man
right.
to celebrate with it, if you notice in the pictures, you have to read, watch for the details. He was hugging and kissing his 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 constitution more than they were hugging and kissing him. Now, if they were pleased that he was the cabinet, they'd be hugging all
They
that.
be
But
hugging
he
him
was
up. Oh yes.
but he was trying to show like he loved them so much, so loved him. He's such a jolly fella that he became the life of the party, the life of the party and party, I'd like to call it. So I thought that was silly because now as a backbencher, he would no longer have access to jobs, opportunities. He's going to make less money as a minister, which gives him less resources to have to spend with his constitution. So for all of them have to put some of their money into the constitution, even though they get a constituency allowance, etc. There always calls for supplementing. They have their charity, but there's also so he's not going to have a greater call in, but a call an increase or even call on him with lesser resources unless he has independent sources of income. So I'm saying
Right.
there was
Right.
there was no need for him to take that route
Mhm.
and pretend that this is one of the greatest things that happened to him and to the party. When in truth in the fact, he's in a weakened state, and one has to wait and see how and if and when he will recover, whether he will be uh, put out of pasture for a while and then brought back in, or maybe might be given a consultancy or special envoy somewhere to one of the other ministry and get some other funds to help bring his pay close to what it was as a minister. But the prestige and status of a minister cannot be replaced by a boost in earnings through being a consultant or a special envoy or whatever. So a lot depends on what I think too what happens in the future, how much more information comes out about in the future, or any other activities in that ministry, and then that will probably help what comes out or does not, or how it's treated, how it's managed, how the public accept it. That could help justify how long where he goes from here in the cabinet of Barbados or whatever. So that is my take on and I think that his attitude led him to this because even when he was leaving office, he was not humble and meek and chaos. He had to be center of had to be center of attention and make him feel like he's the happiest MP backbencher in Barbados right now. But I want to add diverse slightly and just make a note of something which I refer to from time to time. And it has to do with crime. Is it my imagination or is it? This is almost 4, 5, 6 months now that Mr. Kurt Humphrey has been named Minister of Crime Prevention. So far, he has not produced a statement, comprehensive statement onto his intentions, plan, finding, a policy driven to open your eyes. As a matter of fact, he has been outstripped. He's been beaten in that regard by Minister Childblack making a minister statement on the floor of the House. He has not done the same. And it worries me because
Mhm.
people are still blaming the Attorney General for the current crime situation. I mean, when Corey Lane, when ex-minister Corey Lane had he was involved, he was identified with it. He was talking and doing things. You might not have always agreed what he said or did, but he
Yeah. Yeah.
identified he was involved. Now there's this situation where Mr. Humphrey's name is not linked. Even when they check the website, the press does not even refer to him as Mr. Kurt Humphrey. He's minister of well, Community Development and Elder Affairs, Social Development, Community Development. I forget the name. You know, sort of empowerment or Elder Affairs, something. But there's no mention even in the press as identify him. And I think that he has to come to the public. I think the time nearly 6 months ago, he comes to the public. I put on marker so we can judge him what has been going on in the last few months. I understand from my sources that Mostly what has been going on that there's been a very strong training program on about on healing. Healing. I understand the program is run by sociologists, somebody with a religious background. So they're spending, and this consultant gets from about $10,000 to $11,000 a month. But I understand that then there's another program where seminars on healing, training sessions on healing are being conducted, right? And at the same time, but the cost is $45,000 to $50,000 a month in that alone. That is my information. If it is incorrect, I stand corrected. I will correct it. I will point it out. But so people who are watching, people in the ministry are saying, how comes this all this money being spent? But you're not seeing any result. The public is not being communicated, probably not being brought up to date. It's still either the AG or the Commissioner of Police. I did hear Minister Humphrey at one point say that he had been to Chicago with a team and they had overseen some methods and techniques and policies. But so far, nothing has been brought to the public. So why should we have a minister of crime prevention, a silent minister of crime prevention, an unidentified minister, when all others have had to pay their dues? And I think that is more than time that Mr. Humphrey come and bring his open in his because he's not open our eyes yet to his thinking. And as though you always, I would like to see the same fervor and frequency with which he addresses social services sector, the amalgamation of agencies, child care, the elderly, all the disabled, all laudable and admirable and necessary. I'd like to see him address the same um, oratory and frequency of thought and delivery on crime prevention, what he's doing about it, what he's done about it, what he intends to do further about it. I'm almost out of my time, but I don't know if you want to ask a question before I wrap up.
Well, I mean, when we look at what has been happening in the country in terms of crime, I think I saw recently as well an article in the Barbados Today where the police service have done an installation of CCTV cameras, I believe, in the Pine. I think somewhere in the Pine area there are some facial recognition cameras and so on. When you look at what is happening, and you're not hearing anything, any plans. The only thing we're hearing, Glyne, is tint. If we remove the
Right.
tint from the vehicles, then crime will end. And all of the police will be safe, the criminals will be exposed. As long as the tint comes off the cars, all will be well. So it
I,
seems, it's like we're dealing with a lot of knee-jerk policies and solutions. Things have not
I,
been sat down and thought through.
or present if they have been presented. If you in the
Yes.
absence of information, you cannot gain enthusiasm or support for something on which you know little or nothing. But where the cameras are concerned, they're not only in the Pine, they're around. I've seen some of my large cell areas. They're down around the city. They're all over Barbados,
Yes.
and I have no. I understand they play a major role in being able to capture people or vehicles involved in crime. So they have their role. I would like to see that maybe that is the same approach has been. I as a civilian, as a member of the public, I'm prepared. I have no worry about being on camera anywhere you go. Right,
Correct.
as a person,
Correct.
I
Correct.
think that same approach should be adopted at the port and at customs, where should be cameras. If you can have cameras on the streets for civilian people like you and I, why can't they have why can't they have cameras installed at customs? I settle this confusion and this secret finger pointing and blaming so that everybody is open, everybody can be monitored, and that to me that in itself is a deterrent. It would replace the unreliable, unpredictable, and suspicious uh, what you call it, lie detector test program. And I think everybody will be more open to a more verifiable and trusted because you would have tapes of what you have, and therefore you'd have backup of measures. So therefore, I think that will help to crime. And this is not new to Barbados; it's happening
No,
all over the world. All
no,
right.
but wasn't that tried? If my mind serves me correctly, Glyne, there was an attempt to do that under the Alpha administration, if I remember. and there was real outcry from the staff.